Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Mayorga, and I am back after taking a break. And I tend to do that because my life tends to be a little busy, and I find myself occupied with work and family. And recently, I ended up presenting at several conferences back to back, starting in January, and then school started for me at the university, and then I did two other conferences, one in Galveston, one in New Orleans, and then I took a little trip, and I went to New Mexico and had a lot of fun and relaxed, and I'm back. And Today, I would like to do just a short little video on the difference between admiring and imitating. And I got this idea. I'm always having ideas. I was at a celebration in at a quinceañera, and the young person who was celebrating the quinceañera uh, asked if there could be an impersonator there. And as I was watching this person entertain the audience, I began to think about being your authentic self and what's the difference between impersonating someone or imitating someone and admiring someone. And I can recognize in our social environment today that we have a lot of influencers. We have a lot of YouTubers. We have a lot of people that impersonate others, and this has a big impact on society, especially the younger society. And I was at a quinceañera, and there's a lot of young people there, and they were just going crazy over this impersonator, Selena. And she had the hair, she had the clothes, and I remember I was around when Selena was killed, and I remember distinctly. And I remember afterwards how many people began to uh, replicate her or impersonate her or imitate her in so many different ways. And it took me to a next step to think about what does that do to our lives, or why do we tend to imitate someone as opposed to admiring someone, or as opposed to just being our authentic self. So I wanted to do a little comparison of what it is to admire and what it is to imitate. And so, when we imitate, what is it that wants us to become like them, right? And what is it that we learn from that? Is that something that really is best for us to imitate somebody and disregard who we are? So I have some, as you know, I always start my little videos with defining whatever it is I'm going to say because I think that that's important. So I'd like to define what the word admire means. We regard someone or something with a lot of respect or warm approval, or to regard with wonder or pleasure. I love the mountains and I admire the mountains. I think they're beautiful. I think, they're majestic. I don't want to be a mountain, but I certainly do admire a mountain. Or I go to, I love vintage jewelry. So I'll go to a jewelry store and I admire the vintage jewelry, the craftsmanship, the person that has that kind of talent to do something so exquisite. But I don't want to be the jewelry. Okay? I don't want to imitate the jewelry, or I don't want to try to imitate the jeweler that's done the jewelry. I admire their talent, their craft, all of that. So I think you understand what I mean when we admire. We may admire somebody that is that dresses well, that stands out in a crowd, that seems to have a lot of confidence, that really seems to know how to carry themselves, really can do a great presentation. I go to conferences all the time, and I will walk into some conferences, and at the end, I say, I really admire that person's ability to come together and put this in such a well uh, behavior, manner, whatever. And so we understand what it is when we admire. I've got a lot of people admire my glasses, but I don't think they want to be my glasses. They don't want to imitate my glasses. They just admire that they like the color, they like this, they okay. So we that's the definition for admire. But when we imitate, and I'm going somewhere with this, I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is and what prompts us to imitate and what is occurring now in society that can become a little, I wouldn't call it dangerous, but it can be because when we imitate a lot of people, we may uh, follow a dangerous path and it may end up being detrimental to us. Okay. So when we imitate, we take, assume, or act the character of a person or thing. We intentionally copy or model another person's characteristics, such as behavior, speech, appearance, or expression. The difference between admiration and imitation is I look and admire at someone how their carriage, how they carry themselves, and I appreciate that and I respect that. But I don't. I still want to be my own person. If they use their hands a lot to talk, I may not. I'm not going to replicate that or imitate that because I am not them. That's part of who they are. It's again part of their characteristic. But to imitate, and I'm sure there's a lot of shows or commercials where we see people view somebody and then later they'll show a picture of them imitating or be acting like that they're that person. And when it's used in a skit or in a situation that is funny, we'll laugh. But there's a lot of people in our society that may be imitating, and this has nothing to do with imposter syndrome. That's a whole other ball game, which I'm thinking about also doing. But when we imitate, like I said, we try to take on the person's characteristics. We try to become them, and there's no separation. We infuse ourselves, and then we try to emulate everything that they're doing, and that totally goes against who we are. And in honesty, we're eradicating part of who we are to take on the characteristics of someone else. And we're not talking about entertainment where people will um, try to what's the word I want to use, where they behave in a way like another character, but it's done for entertainment, and then right away they make a joke about it and they laugh. That's not what I'm talking about. So we also have to think about, is imitation a compliment? Is it who's it, and if it is, I mean, who is it a compliment to, and is it really healthy? Now we're looking at this from a mental health perspective. To imitate and lose yourself because you want to take on the characteristic of another person, that says a lot about who you may be. And that's what we talk about. It's is it a compliment, or it may be seen as a compliment for the person who may be imitating another person. And maybe you think it's a flattery that you are imitating someone else. But in reality, it's really not a compliment. Okay? If you're constantly imitating someone else and you're losing who you are, then that indicates there's probably an issue with deeper feelings of anxiety, fear, insecurities, that you don't feel comfortable in your skin. Let's go back to when the children are little. All right. And they tend to imitate. They tend to imitate mommy and daddy a lot. Okay. So if mommy carries a purse, if there's a little girl, she's going to want to carry a purse and imitate mommy. But that little girl might grow up and say, I don't care about purses. I personally am one of those. As I got older, I used to wear a lot of preppy clothes, button down shirt, pants that had pockets so that I didn't have to carry a purse. And my mom was a purse carrier, but I was little. When I was little, I remember wanting to carry a purse. Another one is uh, jewelry, makeup, and I'm talking about the female species that will do that, and when they're growing up, or the little boy that follows dad around because dad's a mechanic or likes to tinker with the cars, and then that young person grows up and that's furthest thing from his mind. But when he was little, he was imitating. You know, it could be another child that imitates mom because he wants to wear dresses, then grows up and that goes by the wayside, or it continues. It doesn't matter. What we're talking about is when we imitate. We all have imitated, but is it truly a compliment once we become adults to imitate other people because we want to be like them? There's a difference between admiration and imitation. I can admire someone, but I don't want to be them. I can admire their quality, I can admire their characteristic, their behavior, but I don't want to be them. When we are imitating, I am so uncomfortable with who I am. I want to be that person. I want to have the accolades. I want to get the attention. I want all of those things, and so it can uh, impede your mental health and create problems. So I think that it's important to recognize that if you know of someone or you've had this a need to imitate, that it's probably masking insecurities or fears rather than genuinely expressing admiration or appreciation for the situation. So, and another reason why we might imitate is because that we're so comfortable in being someone else that we're not comfortable in our own skin. We it actually gives us a sense of safety and control to imitate someone else and to become them or to pretend to be them. It's pretend play. And when we're little, we encourage it because there's a lot of imagination and it's part of exploration. But if we continue as adults to imitate others, then we really developed our who we are as a human person? Have we developed our own personality, or are a lot of those things hidden? It's I've worked with people who don't have an identity. They grew up with somebody else's identity and they continue it. And so when I ask, who are you? They don't really know who they are. And so when we imitate, and if we imitate enough and long enough, we don't really understand who we are as a person. Okay. So think about that when you're in a situation where you use words like, oh, I wish I was them. Okay. Why would you wish to be them? Okay. Or I remember back when I started my position as a counselor educator, I used to have a lot of students say, I want to be just like you. And I think, and I would say, what would be the reason for you to want to be like me? Well, because you do counseling this way, and I really want. And what I would say to them was, I can teach you the skills, but you're going to develop your own way of working with your clients. You can't imitate me and try to be like me and then go sit there and try to do the skill like me because it just won't work. Okay? Because we infuse our characteristic, we infuse our beliefs, we infuse who we are when we're working as counselors. And to imitate that would be extremely difficult. And it would also be unhealthy and it would not be appropriate in working with clients. Okay? So now we move over to admire. Okay? What is it when we admire? Oh, I've admired a lot of people. I respect what they're doing. I hold them in high esteem, the things that they're able to accomplish, how they've gotten there. I'll give you a good example. When I was growing up, I wanted to be in the band. I've always been musical, but I never developed my abilities the way I really wanted to. And I was in the seventh grade. I wanted to be a twirler, so I became a twirler for my seventh grade year, and I wanted to play the drums, and I just loved them. But I did not stick to it. And there's a lot of reasons why I didn't, but I did not. And so along comes my grandchild, and he starts in middle school, or at the end of, not middle school, at the end of elementary. A band director comes to their school, and I have both my grandchildren, my granddaughter and my grandson. They both decided they wanted to be in the band. My granddaughter did it for a year or two, and then she stopped. That wasn't what she wanted to do. But my grandson really fell in love with playing the drums. So that was when he was at ending the sixth grade. He's now in his last year of college, and he is studying to be a band director. Boy, can he play the maringas, the cymbals, I mean, just everything. And I admire him. I admire his tenacity. I admire his resilience. I admire his perseverance, that he had a dream and he decided that he was going to go all the way. That's high admiration that I have for him. His talent, his how he holds himself, how he performs. So you see the difference, okay? I of wanting to imitate him. There's no way I could imitate him. I don't have the talent and the years and the experience that he invested to become someone that could truly embrace music that way. So I have a lot of admiration for him. And I think everybody can relate. We have people like that. I admire authors. I read a lot, and the way they write, the way they are able to bring a story together, and I admire that. Uh, but I can't be them. I if I and I'm a writer, and I write a lot of articles and things like that. But I can't write the way they write. But I admire the amount of time that it takes to generate stories, or to put them together and have the perseverance to send them off to see if they get accepted or rejected. So you know what I'm talking about. So there's people that get imitated, and then there's people that get admired. Okay. And so when we admire others, it's because they represent something that we aspire to achieve. They have traits that we admire, abilities, behaviors, all of those things that can help us become the persons that we strive to be. They uh, they have a certain integrity. They're honest. They have courage. They have kindness. Uh, they're like moral compasses for us. Oh gosh, there was back when I was growing up. There was apartheid in Africa, and there was many leaders that came out of that situation, and I began to read their books, and I admired them. Their resiliency, again, their perseverance, their compassion, their empathy, their ability to do so much and get through hardships and come out winners. Uh, that was something that I highly admire, and I continue to do that. I've never really wanted to be someone else. Maybe when I was much, 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 much younger. But one of the things that I strive to be in my own life is genuine, and to try to allow the real me to come through, and to compliment and let other people know my admiration for what they are doing and how they hold themselves and what they've accomplished and how they've gotten uh, beyond adversities. One person, and it took me a while to recognize this, that I admire is my mom. She came from a very, very, very poor background, and she has a lot of history in her background of adversity, and yet she still strived to try to become educated, and that she didn't have proper schooling, and tried to teach us and instill in us qualities that would help us to go forward, to be resilient, to persevere, all of those things. And I don't want to be like her because there were some things about her personality that just didn't fit me. But I certainly have always admired her, and I've used her as an example for myself to persevere through hardships and get to the other side. So uh, oh, I'll leave you with this last one thing. Admiration. When we have admiration, we are looking at someone that we believe can help us become a better self of who we are. And so I just want you to think about it. How much time do we spend imitating? Or and we think, okay, we're adults, we don't do that. But you'd be surprised. You just turn on social media, and there's a lot of imitation occurring, and it can be it can be something that we can do for fun or entertainment, but not when it becomes part of who you are and that's how you live your life. If you're imitating a particular personality or a particular person, and you never really fully develop who you are. Or do we use admiration to help us move forward and to look at someone and say, maybe I can achieve also in my own way, not the way they achieved it, but however way you believe you need to achieve your own successes. And think about that. And have a good day. Thank you.